All right, welcome out to our Monday. So here we are, Momentum Mindset Monday, and several things to talk about today. So we will jump right into it. So hope you have a great weekend as we get into today's conversation. So we talk a lot about doing hard things. I mean, that's kind of a theme that we talk a lot about with these calls and with many of our different trainings that we have, is we talk about doing things that are outside the comfort zone, doing things that are hard, doing things that are we're going to push yourself to get to where you're not currently at, but where you're trying to go. And as you start to look at doing hard things, I started reflecting back on a couple of things that I've gone through recently myself. So last week, I had the opportunity to go to a youth trek experience. So my wife and I were asked back in, several years ago, actually, to help run this group. And then with COVID came along, that kind of pushed everything off to the side. And then back this last November, December, we were asked to lead this group to put together a bunch of the youth in the neighborhood and find some different volunteer adults who would help out and go and do this multi-day experience. And it was a ton of work getting everything put together, many, many meetings. So our first meeting was first week of January. We've had meetings through many, many months getting ready for this event. One of the hardest parts of this process was getting to the point where we could get up volunteers to come and help out with the process too. And so, but as we got closer to the event last week, we look forward to getting it all done just because it was going to be quite the undertaking. But as we got out there, had all these youth, and we were hiking for many, many hours. Each day was about an 8-mile journey that we were going through, and it was a lot of work. It was interesting watching the interaction with all these kids that were obviously, many of them were pushed outside their comfort zone to do this activity. I mean, I don't think anybody really trained for this. No one was really physically as prepared as they could have been to go, but it was a really cool experience in the sense that it really pushed people outside their comfort zone. You got to see people doing things that they had never done before. And for many, it was probably the hardest thing that they've come across up to this point. Then that was the last week's trek. But my thoughts kept coming back to an experience I had several years ago. And I've talked a little bit about these on our mindset calls, these the Navy SEAL training that I've gone through a group called SEAL Fit. And there's some pretty cool lessons that I've learned from going through that experience. And I reflected on that a lot last week, because during that Navy SEAL training, we were out for many hours with a 50-pound sandbag in our bag. And as we were out hiking in the hot heat, it really pushed us outside our comfort zones. I mean, that was the breaking point for many people, was the multi-hour hike that we were on. I think there's a couple parts to that. I mean, the heat was one factor of it. It was just under 100 degrees outside. The 50-pound sandbag that you're lugging around, plus the 2 gallons of water that you were carrying, that was another factor. The speed that we were hiking was another factor, because it was not a comfortable pace. We were moving pretty fast. And then every hour we'd stop to get a 2-minute water break to be able to hydrate. And then we'd end up, before we could put our packs back on after the 2-minute break, we'd have to do either 100 push-ups or 100 burpees or a plank hold for multi-minutes, or whatever it was, to kind of push yourself outside your comfort zone. And as I was reflecting on that experience and going through that, and going down that hard road, I thought to myself, for many people, we've experienced hard roads in our own lives. As I looked at that experience in the Navy SEAL Challenge, the one thing that was the biggest difference maker, and this is kind of the secret, one of the key secrets of how to get further in the process, and that is by not doing it alone. And there's no way I would have been able to do that experience, that 20X experience, by myself. It would have been impossible to go through that experience by myself. In fact, my swim buddy who I was partnered with, he was a key part of that process. I've told that story in the past, where he took my pack for a little while so I could get my breath right. So I could get I was kind of in a dark place mentally, and he helped me get my focus back on. But there's something to be said about having people that are in the fight with you. Because when you're doing something by yourself, you can only take it so far by yourself before you start to realize your own limitations and realize that you're not gonna be able to do it by yourself. I see that in my real estate business. Like, I could only take myself so far as a solo agent before I had to surround myself with other people who could kind of help me, push me to get to other place. I found that with the brokerage, like, be able to find different people who could be in the fight with me to help me get to where I needed to go, but because I couldn't do it by myself, I couldn't get to the place I want to go to. I found that in my life, in my personal life, having my spouse and my kids, like, having other people around me, like, inspires and pushes me to do things that I wouldn't do by myself. The question I'd ask you is, how often do you leverage relationships to accomplish new heights? I mean, you look at it, like, in our business, like, we talk a lot about relationships. We talk about the power of relationships. And having key relationships is a difference maker. Having people who you can be in the fight with. When I joined Better Homes and Gardens years ago, the reason that was the biggest telling point for me was the dinner I went with the dinner that I had with Sherry Chris. And I saw that this is somebody that I could align myself with, and they had the same value proposition, and they had the same mindset and ethics to be able to work with people. Like, I really admired that. And I thought to myself, well, that's someone I could align myself with. And over the course of time, I always try to find people I can align myself with. I look at the different mentors and coaches that I've had over the years and different key people who have facilitated different strategic opportunities. And, there are events. I mean, our events are a really powerful way of connecting us with our relationships. For many of us, we're not going to be where we're at in our real estate businesses by ourselves. Like, our businesses rely on other people. Like, we rely on the referrals that we get from other people. We rely on the experiences and the connection that we have with other people. You'll see that in today's event. Like, for those that have signed up to participate in the event, I hope that all of you come to just see the event today. Even if you didn't sign up, even if you didn't even invite clients to come, you need to come to the Riverton event just to see what it's all about. So that gets you that much more inspired to participate in the next event, because we'll be doing more events this fall. Like, we have the Riverton event today that we're going to be doing, but then this weekend we'll be doing the event, the pool party up in Ogden. And you've got to be able to see that stuff and just be able to. I remember the first event I went to, I was just there to watch and see. I mean, this was years and years ago, and I thought to myself, I could totally do this. If I can see it in my mind, I can totally do this thing. And in your real estate business, you have strategic partners and people who are going to be critical to help you get to where you want to go. And our brokerage is going to be similar in that sense. The question that I've looked at in the past is that as we've grown and built the brokerage up, is we get asked by a lot of people to be strategic partners with us. And it's been hard to find the right strategic partners, partly because it's finding people who have the vision and have the foresight and they're willing to be in the trenches with you. At the same time, we want to make sure that we have the high quality of experiences that our clients have. I remember many years ago, I was a lender that I would work with, and the lender was super, super salesy with my clients. And he would throw other people under the bus, and it just created this really difficult process. In fact, I've talked to some of you over the last couple of weeks with some of your experiences that you've had with different various people in our industry. And your role in the real estate process is it's like an orchestra conductor. Like, you're creating the music, but you're directing it. Like, you're directing this process, and it's critical to surround yourself with key people who can help you get to where you want to go.